please call the roll.
Calling the roll for the Monday, March 25th, 2024 Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01 a.m. We have Levine Ross serving as an alternate for Meredith Turner.
Present.
Councilmember Dale Miller.
Here.
Trevor Meckler serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones Jr.
Here.
Melanie Say serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Catherine Gallagher serving as an alternate for Chris Renee, County Executive.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for Michael Chambers, Fiscal Officer, and as chairperson.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, if we can take a second to review the minutes from last week's meeting. If there's no noted corrections, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that motion.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Moving on to contracts and awards.
First item is tabled item BC 2024-199, Sheriff's Department submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to XL K9 Services Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $47,200 for the purchase of 4 imported narcotic detection police service dogs and related training services for the period March 15, 2024 through March 14, 2025 for the Corrections Department and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Karen DeCarlo for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department is submitting a contract with Excel K9 Services for approval to purchase 4 canines to detect narcotics for the Corrections Department.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Meckler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, first item for review, new item, BC 2024-231, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with Vander Brothers Construction Incorporated for rehabilitation of Dunham Road from Turney Road to Libby Road in the city of Maple Heights for additional funds in the amount of $209,103.60.
Hi, good morning, Eric Mack, Public Works. This is due to changes out in construction, mainly the sidewalk and also the ADA ramps.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-232, Department of Public Works recommending an award and submitting a contract with Diversified Air Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $14,394 for preventative maintenance program on the new Sol Air compressor systems at the Harvard Garage, effective upon signatures of all parties for a period of 2 years.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is an award recommendation to Diversified Air. So last year we did a formal bid for new air compressors out at our Harvard division that supports our Fleet Division Sanitary Road and Bridge. This contract award is with the same vendor. We bid it out competitively to do the PM, preventive maintenance repairs, just so we can maintain that actual air compressor system.
Tom, if I could jump in, Paul Porter, Department of Purchasing. I spoke with council staff earlier this morning about the discrepancy between the number of vendors that received notice of the solicitation and the number of vendors that responded. This question has come up in the past on other items. There are numerous vendors that are registered in our supplier portal for a variety of commodities that they don't deliver or sell. So we're going to be taking a look at those vendors that are registered for things that, it's apparent that they don't sell, trying to reach out to them to see if they can kind of self-modify their entries in Infor. And then if we're unable to hear back from them, looking at what we can do internally to modify those entries, just so there's not that big of a discrepancy in the future.
And I also want to add, so when we did bid this out, the brand of air compressor is Solaire, and Diversified is a factory authorized dealer, so that may have dissuaded some vendors from bidding that they may not service that brand of equipment. So just to throw that in.
Questions?
Yes. Is there a cost in sending out that many bid packages, or is it done electronically and it doesn't really matter how many are sent?
Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, there's no cost. So vendors they're responsible for going in the system, checking off what commodities they register for. Some of them that we're finding, and I think what Paul's getting to, is they're not applicable. They may check off they want to be notified of every single bid, where in fact they don't provide that commodity. So, but there's no additional cost that goes into it.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I can make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-233, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a payment to Greater Cleveland Media Development Corporation, DBA Greater Cleveland Film Commission, in the amount of $210,000 for general operating support for the period March 25th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Hi, folks. So this year, we're about to take the next step in the industry growth in the state of Ohio. Last year, we were successful in increasing the tax incentive program that draws investment to spend their money and create jobs in Cuyahoga County. And this year, we were successful in attracting 9 projects to come spend a total of $152 million, all in the Northeast Ohio
Can you
region.
repeat your name, please?
Please state
Bill
your name for the
Garvey.
record.
Oh, okay, thank you.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Bill Garvey.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item?
Madam Chair, is anyone from development going to present the 4 or 5 items that are here, or is we're just going to have each of the organizations present?
Is there anybody from development here?
A little surprising that.
Yeah,
Usually
so,
wait-
ooh.
Just so I think the recipients understand, usually the department will get up and present the item, but
I'll try and reach out to development real
okay,
quick.
so, we'll take, questions for this item and then we'll, like, move it to the end for a vote. Are there any questions regarding this particular item?
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions, but I think just for the record, right, the next 4 or 5 items are items that we've historically funded year over year, and although it might not seem like a large dollar amount, I think, you know, those annual subsidies that these organizations get go a long way, and the amount of economic impact that these organizations bring into the region, not just the city or county, right, is important. So I just wanted to point that out, and I was hoping that development could talk a little bit more
Right,
about the
right.
economic impact side of how valuable these items are that I think, you know, carry a lot of weight for these organizations and help fund their operating expenses for them to be able to do what they do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
May I make an additional comment?
Sure.
So these projects don't just come on their own. This takes proactive effort. You know, obviously, there's a pretty high profile project that has been in the news lately, which has sequels that hasn't filmed in Northeast Ohio. It's because of the work that we do that we've succeeded in attracting that big project to come film here and spend money and create jobs here. So our funding over the last several years has been static, even though our costs have increased substantially. Inflation has impacted the work that we do, and as we do enter this new phase where the program expands dramatically, the capacity to go out and use that new program as a tool to attract investment expands too. So the work that we do is dependent upon, obviously, this operational income from the county. And you know, we are going to experience this growth and tremendous impacts. 152 million is the best one-year income for this region in this industry that we've ever had.
Any additional questions, Mr. Garvey? We're going to move the vote to the end. I'm going to give Mr. Porter a chance to bring some, here's Mr. Hurdick. Thank you.
Paul Hurdick, Department of Development. Apologies, our staff was off sick today and I'm like coming down here.
Thank you. Since Mr. Hurdick is here, I guess we can go ahead and vote on this item. So there were no additional questions on this particular item?
I mean, Paul, I just don't know if you want to touch upon the kind of the history of these annual subsidies and the value that it brings to the county and the region.
The
as
first
a
one is
whole.
the great, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
I was just going to tell him what the first item.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay. Sorry.
Thank you, Trevor. Again, Paul Hurdick, Department of Development. The administration is bringing forward a series of requests for operating support payments. The administration annually proposes these payments to specific organizations that have an important role to play in economic development in Cuyahoga County. We do annually receive information from organizations, evaluate the value they provide, and the administration is recommending the amounts you see on your agenda today for each of these organizations. Certainly, as one example of this, the Greater Cleveland Film Commission does a great deal of work, first of all, to attract productions here to Cuyahoga County, but also, secondly, to support the development of a workforce and supporting cast of subcontractors available to support the industry. So its work is important, needs to continue, especially in light of the legislature's willingness to increase somewhat the amount of the subsidy. I think Mr. Garvey has probably mentioned or often mentions the fact we'd like to see even more, but they have given us a little more to work with in this round, and that simply underscores the need for the Film Commission's work.
Thank you. Councilman Miller?
So, Director, it's my understanding that this year, for the first time, you did a more formal proposal process for these payments, and I would just like if you could explain that a little bit so that everybody knows about it.
Thank you, Councilman. This year, consulting with county leadership, we determined that we would have a date certain when we would invite each organization to submit its request. So we did have all the requests come in the same date in late January. We did have first staff and then county leadership took a look at these requests and met internally, and based on that meeting, did come forward with these recommendations.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-234, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a payment to Greater Cleveland Sports Commission in the amount of $220,000 for general operating support for the period March 25th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Thank you. Paul Hertig, Department of Development, and also representatives of the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission here. Again, we're recommending this operating support payment for approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
I'm sure, do we want to hear just from each entity since they're here, just like give a
Sure.
quick
Mhm.
overview of what the
Yep.
subsidy is used for and introduce the
Sure.
members of it?
Susie Ray, Director of Finance with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. Our operating support request this year is going to be helping us fund and manage these 17 events that we have in this year alone. That's estimated to bring in nearly about $100 million of economic impact to the county.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-235, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a payment to Global Cleveland in the amount of $150,000 for general operating support for the period March 25th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Paul Hertig, Department of Development, with Joe Simperman, presenting this item for approval.
Morning, Madam Chair. Joe Simperman, Global Cleveland, here for our annual request for support. Our organization has been engaged in welcoming international newcomers to Cuyahoga County since 2011. This past year was the busiest year on record for welcoming immigrants and refugees and newcomers to our county since 1948. We look at this as workforce potential. Through the support of the county, we've been able to help other organizations find families not only housing but also work, which helps to plug some of the workforce gaps. And we're looking at this year being even bigger than next year, which means three things: population growth, workforce increase, and the bottom line is more economic development, all because people want to be in the greatest county in the United States. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Mr. McAleer?
I'm sure just a comment on this one. I think, the Department of Development provided an annual breakdown year over year for the last 5 or 6 years for each of these items. And, I think if you look at the last couple of years, for the record, right, the county executive has been pretty consistent with the council, making the county welcoming for everyone. And you can see that by the annual subsidy that's been given out. It's doubled over the last couple of years. So I think that just is an important thing for the record to show the public that the elected officials just aren't saying, this is a welcome. They're showing this by increasing Global Cleveland, doubling their annual subsidy amount.
Additional comments or questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-236, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption which will result in a payment to Downtown Cleveland Alliance in the amount not to exceed $130,000 for the period March 25th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, as listed for items A and B on the printed agenda, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Thank you. Paul Hertig, Department of Development. Again, note this item is divided into two parts. As we reviewed the level of support to provide, we did consider the total of the two parts. So it's essentially $130,000 operating support broken into two parts. And would you like to say a few words, introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Sam Rocco. I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Research at Downtown Cleveland, Inc. This funding will allow us to implement our downtown retail strategy, as well as activate our public spaces and enhance our public realm. We also look to further expand our clean and safe ambassador work.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-237, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption which will result in a payment to Area Zone Alliance in the amount not to exceed $125,000 for general operating support for the period March 25th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Paul Hertig, Department of Development, submitting this item for approval. Don't know if Rashu is here. Usually Rashu's here. He's very busy, though. He may have another obligation. I personally want to note that it's been a pleasure to work with Rashu as the recently added Executive Director of Arizona. I think there's a lot going on, and really he brings a lot to that effort.
So, I can speak on behalf of the Arizona Alliance. Their program primarily includes 4 aspects. The first is business retention, and last year they set a ridiculous goal to have 100 meetings with different businesses in the Arizona district around assessing their needs and setting up good communications and helping them in any way possible, and they achieved that goal. And second is business attraction, particularly focused on airport and NASA-related businesses, such as the Blue Abyss project in Brook Park. And the third area is workforce development to increase the pipeline of STEM-trained students and workers to so that the businesses that are being retained and attracted are going to have quality workforce available. And the final area is site preparation to identify potential sites for development and get them prepared in advance, because when businesses want to move in, they're usually looking for a place that's ready to go and where they can act quickly, and if you snooze, you lose. And so those are their 4 areas they're focused on, and I support their program and ask for the support of my colleagues.
Thank you. No further questions, comments? I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you all.
Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-238, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Coing Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $9,833.04 for the purchase of Clockify's annual standard software license subscriptions for the period January 31st, 2024 through February 28, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This exemption is for the Clockify software that is used by IT for project management and employee tracking of time. It has become an IT standard for us. It's worked out well. We did our trial subscriptions. And the reason this is an exemption dating back to the 131 date is for honing the subscription needs and reporting purposes we actually wanted. Once we settled on the quote and the services we wanted, there was no interruption in services and there's been no payments.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-239, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to TEC Communications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $16,276 for a state contract purchase of HyperFlex data platform software subscription services for the period March 19, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Dennis Sullivan again with Department of IT. Cisco, as you know, is a countywide IT standard in hardware, and this software is used for county telephone server structure and managing the structure of the servers. This is the co-term, a couple different licensing purposes, and that's why you see the dates that are spread out. And Cheryl, thank you for your help in straightening that out.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-240, Sheriff's Department recommending an award and submitting a purchase order with Chagrin Valley Dispatch in the amount not to exceed $6,475 for the purchase of VPN software subscription services for 35 mobile data terminals for the period March 25th, 2024 through March 24th, 2025.
Karen DeCarlo for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department is submitting a purchase order for approval with Chagrin Valley Dispatch for VPN software subscription. Chagrin Valley Dispatch manages our MDTs, which needs to connect to their servers, giving the Sheriff's Department access to RMS, CAD, and leads.
Are there any questions on this item? No questions. I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-241, Sheriff's Department submitting a participation agreement via contract number 4004 with City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $350,000 for use of the City of Cleveland's 800 megahertz P25 digital trunk radio system for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028.
Karen again for the Sheriff's Department. We are submitting this agreement with the City of Cleveland to approve for radios to be on the Cleveland radio network. It is a 5-year contract that will connect all PSO, CSO, COs, deputies, and vehicle radios for $5 per month.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-242, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in award recommendation to a Place for Me collaborative in the amount not to exceed $461,998 for provision of system coordination, planning, and implementation activities for ending and preventing youth homelessness in connection with the Continuum of Care program for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. Again, A Place for Me Collaborative is a private nonprofit organization dedicated to preventing and ending youth and young adult homelessness in Cuyahoga County. The funding for this project specifically comes from a HUD planning grant. There are 3 aspects to this contract: coordination, evaluation, and monitoring related to the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Good morning, Marcos. Just wondering, the contract has gone up about $200,000 since they have branched off from YWCA. Do you have a?
Just taking a look at the budget, I mean, there are some dedicated staff for this specific project. There's like 4, I believe, and then there's partial for the leadership of the program. Again, it's its own 501c3. They, have their own.
That's what I figured,
costs.
but thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next items, consent agenda items BC 2024-243 through BC 2024-245.
Take a second to review. Are there any questions on either consent agenda item? McAleer?
Madam Chair, I just had a question on item number 4, the contracts between 0 and 5,000. Just the Pitney Bowes one, it's not, like, I was trying to figure out what was going on in terms of the extension, which looked like there was just a bunch of different dates, and I was a little confused on what we're doing there. In terms of the original date looks like 12/1/2020, but it wasn't signed until 21, and then there's the March 14th, 2024 date from law. I just was trying to figure out what was going on there.
Okay, Cheryl Kinzig, clerk. So what happened is the department was under the impression that previously $0 contract amendments did not require signature, well, it did require signature by the county executive, but not a vote. So that was a misunderstanding on the part of the Department of Public Works and former, the attorney that was previously signed to them. $0 agreements didn't require going before the board. However, contract amendments did require. So that is what happened in this case. So the contract was actually executed in September of 2021 by Armin Budish. And when the department was going through and doing the new amendment to extend the time, they realized that this one was never brought forward. So there's going to be amendment coming forward within the next week or two to add money for the extended period of time.
The, from the November, the extension of November 2024? That's where the additional dollars would need to be added?
Yes.
Okay.
And, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom Pavich, Public Works, that's correct. So this is, as Cheryl said, this was just a time only through November 27th of this year. We have an actual second amendment coming forward possibly next week or 2 weeks. No time, the actual money that works for the actual new this year.
Hard to follow all the dates. I
Yes.
figured just.
It was.
Yeah, so we had previously communicated with the law department, and they said since it was already previously executed by the former county executive, there was no need to put it on for an actual vote since it was for no money.
And we're keeping them separate on the agenda. So this one was the extension of time. The money's going to come at the second amendment.
Thanks for the background.
Any additional questions on the consent agenda items? No questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Any other business?
No other business?
Any other public comment?
No public comment?
Make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.